Picture this. You're sitting in a nice restaurant, linen tablecloths, soft music, a free steak dinner in front of you. You're there because of a flyer that said, "Retirement Investing Made Easy," or a phone call offering a special seminar just for seniors who don't want to outlive their savings. The speaker is charming, funny, well-dressed. He calls people by their first names, makes little jokes about the stock market, and says things like, "You worked hard your whole life. You deserve to let your money work hard for you now." On the screen behind him, the numbers are beautiful. 12%, 15%, even 20% annual returns. Guaranteed. Safe. Better than any bank, with less risk than the stock market. People around you are nodding. You can almost feel your shoulders relax. Finally, someone who understands. Finally, a chance not to be afraid of the future. Then comes the twist. At the end of the presentation, he lowers his voice a little and says, "Now, this opportunity is not for everyone. It's limited. We can't open it to the general public, or it wouldn't work. But because you're here tonight, because you showed up, we are inviting you. We only have a few spots. If you want in, you'll need to act quickly." He passes out forms. There are friendly assistants ready with pens. Someone at the next table is already filling theirs out. Another person is whispering, "This sounds amazing, we should do it." You feel a little pressure in your chest. You think about your savings, about rising prices, about how your money in the bank seems to be shrinking every year. And a quiet voice in your head says, if you don't do something, you'll fall behind. Maybe this is your last chance. What almost no one in that room realizes is this. This exact scene has played out thousands of times across the country, and in far too many of those rooms, the opportunity was never real. It was a script. The suit, the slides, the limited spots, the free dinner, the promises of safe, high returns, these are tools, not of a helpful advisor, but of a con artist. Investment scams targeting older adults don't start with obvious lies. They start with something you've been worrying about for years. Will my savings last? They start with respect, with flattery, with the illusion of being seen and understood. And by the time the numbers stop sounding like a dream and start sounding suspicious, the money may already be gone. Let's slow this down and look at what's really happening beneath the polished surface. Investment scammers who target older adults aren't just chasing quick cash the way a pickpocket does. They're hunting something much bigger, life savings. They know that many retirees have a nest egg, maybe from selling a house, maybe from a pension, maybe from decades of careful savings. They also know that this nest egg feels both precious and fragile. Interest rates are low, the markets are confusing, headlines scream about inflation. It feels like the ground under your feet is moving, and you're trying to stand still. In that uncertainty, a voice that says, "I can give you better returns with less risk," sounds not greedy, but comforting. That's why these scams almost always begin with trust, not with numbers. The scammer may be introduced by a friend from church, a neighbor, someone from your club. This is called affinity fraud, using a shared community, religious, social, ethnic, to lower your guard. If my pastor invited him, he must be honest. If my friend is already invested, it must be safe. The scammer knows this and leans on it hard. He talks about faith, family, community. He might share a story about his own parents, about how he helped them, about how he hates to see seniors taken advantage of. All of this is carefully designed to make you feel like you're not dealing with a stranger, but with one of us.
Only after that emotional groundwork is laid, the numbers appear. And those numbers are the bait on the hook. The pattern is almost always the same. Returns that are much higher than a bank or a conservative investment, but described as safe, protected, or guaranteed. Sometimes it's 10, 12% a year. Sometimes it's even more. The key word is guaranteed. In the real world, even the safest investments, like government bonds or insured deposits, don't offer that kind of return. The only things that offer high returns come with real risks. But the scammer's trick is to break that link in your mind. He says things like, "We use a special strategy that most people don't know about," or "The big firms won't tell you this because they don't make money from it." Suddenly, what should sound impossible begins to sound like a secret advantage. Next comes the structure of the scam itself. Sometimes it's a classic Ponzi scheme. Early investors are paid profits using money from new investors, which makes everything look legitimate at first. You see statements, you see steady gains. Maybe you even receive some interest payments, just enough to convince you to put in more. As long as new money keeps coming in, the illusion holds. Other times, it's dressed up as a private fund, a real estate project, a foreign currency program, or a cryptocurrency platform. There's a website with a login. You can see your account growing on the screen. The scammer might call you periodically with updates. "Good news, our quarter was strong. Your account is up another 4%. All of this is theater, designed to keep you feeling safe and proud of your smart decision. But behind the scenes, something very simple is happening. Your money is not being invested the way you were told. It might be sitting in the scammer's personal account. It might be used to pay off earlier investors to keep them quiet. It might be moved overseas. And because there is no real underlying investment, there is nothing holding it up except faith and new victims. The moment people stop putting fresh money in, or the moment too many people ask to withdraw, the whole thing collapses. At that point, the website stops working. The phone numbers go dead. The office is suddenly closed for renovations or under investigation. The friendly advisor who used to call you by your first name no longer answers. And what used to be your future, your travel plans, your help for the grandkids, your medical cushion, is gone. You might be thinking, but I'm careful. I'd never just hand over my savings to a stranger. And that's exactly what many victims thought too. They weren't naive. They were cautious. They asked questions. They looked at glossy brochures, business cards, and what looked like official licenses. Scammers know this, so they imitate legitimacy as closely as they can. They create company names that sound serious and solid. They use legal language. They register websites. Some even appear at a quick glance in online directories. Others tell you, we work only with a small group of clients. That's why you've never heard of us. We grow by recommendation, not advertising. What would normally be a red flag, no public track record, gets flipped and sold as a sign of exclusivity. Then there's the pressure. Almost every investment scam includes some kind of time limit. We have only a few slots left. This rate is available only until the end of the week. Regulations are changing soon, so we have a brief window. Why? Because pressure shuts down reflection. If you feel rushed, you are less likely to go home, sit quietly, and ask yourself the hard questions. Does this really make sense? How can they guarantee such high returns? Why can't I find independent information about this company? You're less likely to pick up the phone and call your son, your daughter, or your own bank and say, "Hey, have you ever heard of this investment?" The scammer's greatest fear is not your suspicion, it's your patience. So he will do everything he can to make patience feel dangerous and speed feel safe.
There's one more layer that makes these scams especially cruel for older adults. When you're in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, you don't have the same luxury of time to recover from financial losses. If a 25-year-old loses some money in a bad investment, it hurts, but they have decades ahead to earn more. When a 75-year-old loses half their savings, there is no starting over. Scammers know this too. They play directly into that quiet fear. What if I live longer than my money? They present themselves as the solution, the answer, the one chance to catch up. And that is what makes the betrayal so devastating when it happens. It's not just the money, it's the loss of security, of trust, of the feeling that the future, while uncertain, was at least manageable. Right now, you might be remembering invitations you've received, a postcard for a free retirement luncheon, a phone call about a limited investment opportunity, an email promising better returns with no market risk. At the time, maybe you threw them away. Maybe you were curious. Maybe you even went once and left feeling uneasy. The point of this conversation is not to tell you never to invest, never to trust, never to grow your money. The point is to pull back the curtain on how these too good to be true offers are designed, step by step, to feel exactly right until it's too late. In the next part, we're going to switch from story to strategy. We'll talk about how to check whether a financial advisor is actually licensed, how to verify if an investment is registered or completely made up, and what specific words and promises should make you stop the conversation immediately. We'll look at simple, practical steps you can take before you sign anything or move a single dollar. Steps that don't require a finance degree, only a bit of time and the courage to ask questions. Because when it comes to your life savings, the most powerful word you have is not yes, it's wait. Now, let's talk calmly about something much more powerful than any secret strategy or fancy seminar: your ability to pause, to check, and to walk away. Think of this part as a friendly neighbor sitting with you at the kitchen table, saying, "Look, you don't need to become a Wall Street expert. You just need a few simple rules that you follow every single time someone talks to you about investments. These rules are like a seatbelt. You hope you never need them, but when something goes wrong, they are the difference between a scare and a disaster." The first rule is simple to say and surprisingly hard for scammers to get around. If someone offers you an investment with guaranteed high returns and little or no risk,
you treat it as a warning sign, not an opportunity. In the real world, every honest investment has a trade-off. Higher returns usually mean higher risk, more ups and downs, more uncertainty. Safer investments, like government bonds or insured savings, give lower returns but protect your principal. That balance is how the financial world works. So when a person promises you 10, 12, 15% every year, guaranteed, regardless of what the market does, they are not revealing a hidden secret. They are breaking the basic laws of how investing works. You don't have to understand every product, but you can remember this: high return plus no risk equals no thanks. The second rule is about the person, not the product. Before you believe any advisor, you ask a very calm, very important question: where can I officially look you up? Real financial professionals are registered with regulators, are licensed, and can be checked in public databases or through official bodies in your country. Honest advisors welcome that question. They will tell you the exact place to verify their name, license number, and firm. Scammers dodge, deflect, or rush you past it. They might say, "Our work is private," or "Registration is in process," or "We only work by referral." That all sounds exclusive, but it's actually a way to hide. If you cannot independently confirm that this person is licensed and in good standing, you do not give them your money, no matter how polite, smart, or recommended they seem. The third rule is about time. Any investment that cannot wait for you to sleep on it is not worth your money. Pressure is a tool, not an accident. Only a few spots left. Offer ends tonight. Regulations are changing tomorrow. We must act now. These phrases are designed to shut down the part of your brain that asks careful questions and to activate the part that fears missing out. You have every right to say, "Thank you. I don't make financial decisions on the spot. I will think about it and get back to you." If their offer is real, it will still be there tomorrow. If they push harder, if they sound annoyed or disappointed, that is your answer. They were not interested in your long-term well-being, only in your quick signature.
Now let's add another protective layer. You do not need to evaluate these things alone. Make it a personal rule that any investment involving a large chunk of your savings has to pass through at least one other trusted brain before it happens. That might be an adult child, a niece or nephew, a longtime friend, or a professional you already know, like your accountant or a genuine financial planner you've used for years. You don't have to hand them control of your money to get their opinion. You can simply say, "Someone offered me this investment. Can you look at it with me?" Just the act of explaining the offer out loud in your own words often shows you where the holes are. And if the person proposing the investment tries to isolate you, don't tell your kids. They won't understand. Other people will only confuse you. This is just between us. That isolation itself is a huge red flag. There are also some very practical checkpoints you can use before you part with even a single dollar. Ask for everything in writing. Not just brochures and glossy charts, but clear documents that explain what the investment is, what it invests in, what the fees are, and how you can take your money out. Then take those papers home. Read them when no one is watching your face, when no one is hovering with a pen in their hand. Ask yourself simple questions. Do I understand in plain language where my money is going? Can I explain this to someone else without feeling lost? What is the worst-case scenario, and where is it written down? If the answers are fuzzy, if the language is all buzzwords and promises but no details, that fog is not a coincidence. It's cover. Another key question to ask is, how do I get my money back if I need it? Real investments spell this out. There are rules about when you can sell, what penalties might apply, how long your money is locked in, who you contact to request a withdrawal. Scams, on the other hand, often wave this away. They talk endlessly about getting in, but very little about getting out. Or they use vague phrases. You can withdraw anytime. Liquidity is not an issue, without showing you actual terms. If you cannot see on paper how you would exit the investment, you are not looking at a safe place for your life savings. Let's imagine a different scene now. Instead of sitting in that restaurant and signing on the spot, you take the information home. You call a family member and say, "I'd like your help looking at something." You check whether the advisor's name appears in official records. You search for complaints or warnings about the company. You compare the promised returns to what you know banks and traditional investments are offering. Very quickly, many of these amazing opportunities start to look less like golden doors and more like cardboard cutouts. You haven't lost anything by waiting. In fact, you've gained something precious: control. But what if, as you listen to this, a knot forms in your stomach because you've already invested in something that now sounds suspiciously familiar? Maybe the returns are unrealistically smooth.
Maybe your advisor gets annoyed when you ask basic questions. Maybe you've tried to take some money out, and suddenly there are delays, excuses, technical issues. If that's you, the most important step is this. Don't let embarrassment keep you stuck. Scammers count on silence. They count on you being too ashamed to tell anyone, too proud to admit you might have been misled. That silence is their shield. Breaking it is your first act of defense. Start by stopping the flow of new money. Do not add another cent, no matter what they promise. If you can, ask to withdraw a portion of your funds. Sometimes, with a Ponzi-type operation, they will send you something to keep you trusting them, but drag their feet on larger amounts. Pay attention to how they react. At the same time, tell someone you trust what's going on. Share the names, the documents, the website. If there are local or national authorities that handle financial abuse or fraud in your country, this is the moment to reach out. You may or may not recover what you've already put in, but you can protect what remains, and you can help prevent the same trap from snapping shut on someone else.
And finally, there's your relationship with yourself after all this. Many older adults who've been targeted or harmed by investment scams begin to doubt their own judgment. They say things like, maybe I shouldn't be in charge of my money anymore, or I can't trust myself. But here's the truth. The very fact that you're willing to learn, to question, to talk about this shows that your judgment is working just fine. Being tricked by a professional liar does not make you foolish. It means the liar was good at their job. What matters most is what you do next, whether you shut down in shame or decide calmly and firmly that from now on no one gets near your savings without passing your tests. So let these simple ideas settle in. Big promises with no risk are a warning, not a gift. Real advisors can be checked, and they welcome it. Pressure to act fast is your cue to slow down. You are allowed to ask questions, to sleep on it, to say not today, to loop in your family, to walk away. Your savings represent years of work, sacrifice, and care. Treat them with the same caution you would use locking your front door at night. Not out of fear, but out of respect for your past effort, your present peace of mind, and your future freedom.